The snow fell softly that Christmas Eve, covering the city in a white blanket that shimmered under the glow of streetlights. Inside a cozy little restaurant tucked between tall buildings, the tables were decorated with candles and holly, and the faint sound of carols floated through the air. People laughed, glasses clinked, and the warmth of the holiday spirit filled every corner. At the far end, by the window, sat Ethan Ward, a man whose tailored suit, expensive watch, and calm posture made him stand out instantly. He was one of those men who looked like they had everything figured out. CEO of a successful company, admired by many, feared by some, and envied by most. Yet tonight, despite the wealth and status, he was nervous. His eyes kept darting toward the door every few minutes. He was waiting for someone. It was supposed to be a blind date, arranged by his assistant, a woman named Claire, who had told him, "Sir, you need to take one evening to be human. It's Christmas, for heaven's sake." He'd laughed at the idea, but agreed, mostly to get her off his back. The clock ticked past 8 p.m., then 8:30. His date was supposed to arrive at 7:45. Ethan sighed, swirling his drink absent-mindedly. Around him, couples were sharing desserts, leaning close, whispering. He looked at them and wondered when he had last felt that kind of warmth. Probably years ago, before work became his only companion. He checked his phone again. No messages. His date's name was Anna Collins. He didn't know much else about her. Just that she was kind-hearted and someone who doesn't care about money, according to his assistant. At 9 o'clock, the waiter walked over and asked politely, "Would you like to order, sir?" Ethan gave a small smile. "Not yet. Maybe she's just delayed." The waiter nodded sympathetically, as if understanding. He was about to stand up and leave when the door opened again, and a gust of cold air swept in. A woman rushed in, her cheeks red from the cold, snowflakes caught in her hair. She was wearing a worn coat and boots that had seen too many winters. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the scarf around her neck. "Excuse me," she said to the hostess breathlessly. "I'm supposed to meet someone." "Ethan Ward." Ethan stood up immediately. She turned, startled, her eyes meeting his. There was something pure about them, tired but kind. "Mr. Ward?" she asked softly. He nodded, smiling slightly. "You must be Anna Collins." She flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry I'm late. I had trouble finding a babysitter, and then my bus got delayed. I completely understand if you're upset." He shook his head. "You came. That's what matters." Her eyes widened. "You waited? Most people wouldn't." He gave a small shrug. "Most people never wait for the right things." For a moment, she just looked at him, surprised that a man like him could say something so gentle. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that felt real and unpracticed. "Thank you," she said softly. They sat down, and for the first few minutes, there was an awkward silence. Ethan could see she was uncomfortable, her eyes flicking to the expensive plates, the chandelier, the couples in designer clothes. She probably felt out of place. "Long day?" he asked, trying to break the tension. She nodded. "You could say that. I worked double shifts at the diner on Main Street. They were short-staffed tonight, and I couldn't just walk out. I needed the extra pay." He leaned in slightly. "The diner with the blue sign?" Her eyes lit up. "You know it?" He smiled. "I used to go there years ago when I was just starting out." "Best coffee in the city," she laughed softly. "It's still the same, just fewer customers and more bills." He noticed the faint tiredness in her voice, the kind that comes from fighting too many silent battles. "And your babysitter?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then said quietly, "My neighbor, Mrs. Ross. She's 80, but she helps whenever she can. My son's only 6, so it's hard sometimes." Ethan's heart softened. "You're doing it alone?" She nodded, taking a deep breath. "Yeah, his father left before he was born, said he wasn't ready to be a dad. Guess I was." He didn't know what to say. For a man who'd spent years negotiating billion-dollar deals, words suddenly seemed difficult. "That takes strength," he said finally. Anna looked at him surprised. "Most people just call it survival." They both laughed, and slowly the air between them began to change. She started telling him about her son, Liam, how he loved superheroes, how he'd learned to read just to impress her, How he'd said he wanted to buy Mommy a big house one day. Ethan found himself smiling more than he had in months. He shared his own stories too, about growing up in a small town, losing his parents early, building his company from scratch. "I thought success would make me happy," he admitted quietly. "But the higher I climbed, the lonelier it got." Anna listened, really listened, in a way no one else had in a long time. "Maybe happiness isn't up there," she said softly, pointing upward. "Maybe it's down here in the simple things." He nodded slowly, her words sinking deep. By the time dessert arrived, chocolate mousse with strawberries, the snow outside had thickened, covering the streets in white. Ethan glanced out the window. "Looks like it's still coming down hard. Let me drive you home." She shook her head quickly. "Oh, I couldn't let you do that. I live pretty far, and the area's not exactly—" "I don't mind," he interrupted gently. "It's Christmas Eve. You shouldn't be out there alone." She hesitated, then nodded. As they stepped outside, the cold wind hit them and she shivered. Without thinking, Ethan took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. She tried to protest, but he smiled. "Just take it. You'll freeze otherwise." They walked through the quiet streets to his car, and for a few moments, it felt like the world had slowed down, just them, the snow, and the soft hum of Christmas lights flickering in the windows around them. When they reached her small apartment building, she turned to him. "Thank you, Ethan, for waiting. For everything," he smiled softly. "I'm glad I did." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small paper bag, slightly crumpled. "I didn't know what to bring, so I baked these at the diner during my break." He took the bag carefully. Inside were homemade cookies, unevenly shaped but warm and fragrant. "They're perfect," he said, touched. "Thank you," she smiled shyly. "Merry Christmas, Mr. Ward." He hesitated, then said quietly, "Call me Ethan." She nodded. "Merry Christmas, Ethan." As she turned to go, he said softly, "Anna." She stopped and looked back. "Would it be all right if I met your son someday?" Her eyes softened. "He'd like that. He doesn't get many visitors." "Then I'll bring some of these cookies next time," he said with a grin. She laughed, a sound that felt like sunlight breaking through the cold. "You might just win him over." Ethan watched her disappear into the building, the snow swirling around her. He stood there for a long time, his breath forming small clouds in the frozen air. When he finally got back into his car, he opened the paper bag and took a bite of one of the cookies. It was slightly burnt on the edges, but somehow it was the best thing he'd ever tasted. For the first time in years, the CEO didn't feel alone, and as he drove away, he couldn't help but smile, because sometimes love doesn't arrive perfectly dressed or right on time. Sometimes it shows up late, tired and covered in snow, but exactly when your heart is ready.